Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. And on today's edition, we are going to be presenting to you our Game Week 3 National League predictions. We'll have a look at everyone who's in the stream. But firstly, as you can tell, I'm joined by Paul tonight. He's back on the podcast after he couldn't make it on Thursday. Paul, did you have a good weekend?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Haven't done an awful lot, but it's been a bit brighter than last weekend, isn't it, weather-wise? So can't complain.
Yeah, let's hope for that. As it is the last the last month of summer, month and a half of summer. So, of course, we're wanting nice weather at the moment to make the most of it. But it's good to see that everyone's tuning in tonight, especially considering it's short notice and it's also a Sunday. But I have to say, I'm proper looking forward to this game week. I don't know about you. I don't know if it's because it's Oldham or away, and to me, I don't know if other fans agree, but it's quite a big away game to go to, fairly local to us. I like the away end, big ground, but of course, Wealdstone, they've got Bromley away. Will you be making that journey?
I will, and that's why I'm hoping the weather will improve.
Yeah, for that one.
It's
an open roof, isn't it?
It's not the greatest away end, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, I'll be going. I'm taking two of the kids with me. My mum and dad are coming, so yeah, we got a car full going around the M25 on Tuesday night.
Fair enough. That should be good then. So we'll have a look at the live chat. Before we do that, as we're trying to kind of introduce, we've got like topics every week. I've put a poll on YouTube, so most of you have probably seen that. But Paul, this is basically it. Who's going to score more goals this season? Because these were probably the two standout strikers. Well, there's two, I'd say, well-known strikers that have dropped into non-league. Of course, James Norwood and Will Grigg. We've put a poll on YouTube, which we'll have a look at shortly. We'll have a look at what people have said. Who are you thinking then this season?
I would purely go on what service they'll get. I think Will Grigg has got the opportunity to score more goals and probably will. Although, don't get me wrong, Oldham has started well, haven't they? The amount of goals they've scored in the last two games, or Stores on Saturday, rather. Last game, yeah. Purely on what Will Grigg has around him, I think they've got a better chance. I don't know too much around Oldham's team, if I'm brutally honest. You know more of Cole Cluss and Dobras, etc. for Chesterfield.
Yeah.
So, I would go with Will Grigg.
I'm going for Norwood, me. I have said this before because I do think this is going to be one of those comparisons this season. What a lot of people will have, where last season it was Langstaff and Mullin, but Norwood, 11 goals last season in League One. He's an all-rounded striker. Can I think score, poach goals, header goals. He can also take a few players on as well. He's a little bit younger, I believe, as well than Will Grigg. And I look at Will Grigg's stats, and he hadn't scored. Got into double digits in the past 4 seasons, where Norwood, he's proven himself for the last couple. Of course, he scored 11 goals last season for Barnsley, where Will Grigg, the last time he got into double digits was, I think, 4 seasons ago, back in 2019. So for me, I'm going for Norwood. I want to have a look at what the live chat is saying on that, and let's just have a general look at what people have been saying. We've got Bob, who has said if they both play all 46, I think Norwood. So he's agreed with me. Lloyd is in the stream, our regular Dorking listener. John Joe, who is a a Chesterfield fan. Welcome to the stream. I won't put that, Lloyd. And then we've got Ash. He's put Norwood obviously scores more. Not even a debate, really. Any fan other than Chesterfield fans will admit that. Well, you've got a Wealdstone fan here that's already expecting Will Grigg to score more. And I do think Grigg will have more service than what Norwood's going to have. But I think overall Norwood is the better striker. And I think for that reason, he's going to score more goals. Where looking at Chesterfield, although he's got better service, that does also mean the likes of Dobber, Cole, Clough and Mandeville are going to come in with their own goals as well, which may lower Will Grigg's output as well.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to consider is will Will Grigg play 90 minutes of every football match?
Yeah,
in the age years, whereas you'd like to think Norwood is going to be that central focus. He'll be the centre forward that's on the team sheet. If for whatever reason he drops off a cliff in form, or he gets injured. But I think in Norwood's favour, he probably will play a few more minutes. I noticed Will Grigg got substituted yesterday after however 70, 80 minutes. So there's always that chance of, obviously, with the age of Grigg. But listen, I don't know too much about Norwood. I know more about Grigg, obviously, with being at Sunderland and playing higher up the pyramid. So it's, I think, just the service will probably be more consistent. But you're right, they will chip in with their own goals, where Norwood is going to be that central target man centre forward.
Yeah, I'd agree. I know he'll have competition in that Oldham side, but I can't see anyone getting in front of him. He scored 2 goals against Aldershot, 2 very good goals. One, I think, was where he took a player on and scored, and the other one was close from range. Ash has said he's an Oldham fan. Will Grigg lacks quality, though, compared to Norwood. I'm not sure about that. I think aging-wise, maybe, but Norwood's done it at this level. He's proven himself at this level. Of course, Will Grigg's proven himself at higher up, but he's never done it at this level before, and I think that comes into consideration as well. Mr. Luke is here. When was the last time you missed a stream, Luke, by the way? Hello, gents. Do not want to talk about the weekend's result. Just get me on to Tuesday. You know the drill. No pressure whatsoever. Up the heat. Welcome back to the stream, Luke. We'll have a look what's Bob said then. Bob has said, wouldn't knock Oldham service. Lundstrom, Dickinson, Gardner. Also, Nuttall got 3 assists on Saturday. The thing I will say about that, though, with service, you're comparing Lundstrom, Dickinson and Gardner. Gardner's a 30-odd-year-old to Colclough, who's in his prime, Mandeville's in his prime, and also Dobber's in his prime. And probably Dobber's still raw and has got a lot more to prove. So I know it's about opinions, but I would still say Chesterfield have a better service. And I know that's not what you're saying, but it's hard because we're sort of weighing up the different ideas behind it, aren't we? What's your opinions on that? Lundstrom, Dickinson and Gardner as the service for Norwood?
Well, obviously I don't watch them play every week. So it's a difficult one to assess. Oldham fans are going to be a much better place to say, how we know Lundstrom from his Altrincham days. It's just having seen Chesterfield, the threat that they are, and listen, they were the very best of the rest last season, weren't they? And the likes of Dobra, Colclough, whether it was with Chesterfield or not, was very good last year. I mean, what a footballer he is, And clearly, Mandeville, I can just see them being more creative. But I think you're right. They will probably get more goals. Whereas Oldham, listen, I would take the midfielder Lundstrom, Dickinson and Gardner all day long. And I like the midfield Wealdstone have got, for instance. But you're not going to not take them. It's a really difficult one. It's a great poll to have because they've both got attributes where you can see them being top. So they've got to perform well, but their teams have to perform well, and they've got to be consistent. So have their teams. I think that's what everyone's expecting. Those teams have to be consistently good because they're going to be up there. What Oldham don't want is getting their humping like they did in the first day of the season. They want more of what they had Saturday, and if they do, then Norwood's going to get a lot of goals. I think Chesterfield maybe will be a bit more consistent, but who am I? It's a crystal ball, right?
Yeah, it's so unpredictable. Not just this, it's the fact that Oldham lose on the opening day 4-0, then they go and destroy an Aldershot side who were very, it's so unpredictable. It's like Halifax win on the opening day, travel to Boreham Wood and suffer a defeat. It's so unpredictable, this division. And our predictions will probably show that in a second when we put them on screen. But Callum said, mind the gap, Oldham fans. I'm loving this, to be fair. We're having this old Wrexham Notts County rival returning to Oldham and Chesterfield. And it's not even in a title race yet, but you can see these two fan bases are expecting that this season. Ashley said Chesterfield scored 8 goals and he's only scored 1. Yeah, so we've played 2 games, Ash, to be fair. Chesterfield have multiple goal scores. That's what I've just mentioned, John Joe there. The likes of Colclough, Dobber, Mandeville. You even have to look further down the spine of the team defensively. They've got players like Palmer who can chip in with goals. Jeff King as well at wing back always seems to score quite a lot of goals from his position. Matthew is back. I believe this is the same Matthew tuned in last. It might be a different one actually, but he's a Halifax fan again, looking for a big upset on Tuesday night. Up the shame, and you know what? I've got a sneaky feeling that we're going to do it, Matthew. Let's hope. I'm hoping that you'll be making the journey across to Oldham. I'm expecting a lot of Halifax fans to turn up. To be fair, let's hope so anyway, because we're very, very, very fickle as Halifax fans. So do Oldham. We have goals from everywhere, though. We don't need Will Grigg to score every game. I'd agree with that. I'd say I think there's more forward. I think there's more power going forward in the Chesterfield side than the Oldham side. I know you've just mentioned that there, but Chesterfield, like we've mentioned, they've got 7 players that I think could probably score a number of goals this season for them. And of course, Will Grigg, I think, is the icing on the cake. Where Oldham, don't get me wrong, I don't think they're going to entirely rely on Norwood, because there's still some very good players in that side. But I just can't see many other players that are going to get into double digits. I like the likes of Reed, but how Oldham going to play this season with 2 strikers up top? What's your thoughts? Do you think this? I know it's a similar question to what I asked about Oldham's midfield, but can you see anyone else chipping in with the goals for Oldham this season to a standard of getting into double digits, which is what you need?
Well, I think prior to them signing Norwood, then, I mean, Oldham fans might say different, but, you know, Joe Nuttall was a fairly big signing, for a better phrase, last year, from when he was struggling. They were struggling, or Scunthorpe was struggling. They got him in, and he looked like a decent player. Probably not, because if Norwood is going to play the majority of the games and the majority of the time in those games, I mean, I don't know what Oldham play as a formation, but if they only play one up top, there's only going to be one that they can choose. If they play 2, then okay, you might get, you know, the second centre forward, the number 9 chipping in, but, you know, I think he's going to be the prominent player, the focal point of the attack. And because of that, he is likely and naturally going to score quite a lot of goals, because he is League One standard. You know, he's played at League One. He's coming up, with all due respect, he's coming up against National League defences. Now, as much as we love the National League, right, Luke, and we all say what a great league it is, and for all intents and purposes, it's a professional league, it's a full-time league. You've only got to see what Wrexham and Notts County have suffered in their first 2 games, who were miles ahead of anyone else last year on most of the games. You know, they've had a reality check. So you imagine you've got Norwood, who might have been inconsistent in League One, but he's come 2 leagues down to come and play it. He should be that dominant player on that field of play.
He's proven it, though, didn't he? At Tranmere did it, didn't he, when they got promoted? Well, I do think it's, I wouldn't say, obviously, that League One is a better league than the National League on quality of players. That's why it's 2 divisions higher. But what I will say is it's a different league. It's a different physical league, this division. And that's something where I feel Will Grigg may struggle to adjust. Although he's dropping down 2 divisions, which in hindsight, it's like, oh, well, he's going to score 30-odd goals this season. And that's what, you know, I think your league, well, what people will say, maybe League One supporters and, you know, your general football fans who look at his record and him dropping down to, we'd probably say if, let's say, a proven goal scorer in the National League dropped down 2 divisions, would say, yeah, but 2 divisions below, they'd say, well, it's a totally different division. Well, I do feel it's hard to compare because it's a physical league, this division. Yes, it's got better over the years where you're getting more footballing sides now, but it is still that stereotypical to a certain point of big physical sides that try and bully, you know, strikers like Will Grigg and, you know, defenders when they come up again, Will Grigg, they're going to be thinking, we don't want this guy to score. We know he's a good striker, but they're going to want to even more be able to, you know, keep him out because it's an extra sense of achievement, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Without a shadow of doubt. And I think if you look at the physical attributes of Norwood, he is a robust, big centre forward. You know, with all due respect to it, he looks like he's even carrying a little bit, right? So but he is going to be that. Yeah, he's a different type of player to Will Grigg. They're both goal scorers. So, yeah, I think you're right in that sense. And that's what I mean. But and there's no disrespect to National League teams and defences, but James Norwood should come into this league and be confident he can get 25 to 30 goals. He's got to be, knowing he's going to play 90 minutes majority of the time. Whereas Will Grigg, yes, is capable of scoring 25 to 30 goals, especially with the service he has. But is there a different expectation on him to maybe Norwood? There isn't Norwood at Oldham. And, only Oldham fans and Chesterfield fans can really see that on a daily or weekly basis. Whereas we obviously, as from outsiders, we see what we see on highlights, what we pick up on social media. So, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting battle, both teams and those centre forwards.
Yeah, it certainly will. Bob has come back on. I want to know Bob's supports, to be honest, because I feel like he's an Oldham or Chesterfield fan from the vibe I'm getting. Yeah, in fairness, I think Chesterfield's goals will be more spread out, whereas Oldham will rely on Norwood a bit more. I'd agree on that. Jim has come in. Thank God he's here. He's back in the streams. Halifax's biggest supporter. Bring on Oldham Tuesday. Can't wait. Io, Shaman, Io. The Shaman. Come on, boys. Yeah, but I'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, Jim. And then we've had Elliot, who, if I remember rightly, I believe he joined us a couple of weeks ago. He's a Hartlepool fan, unless it's a different Elliot. You've signed Hereford's Jack Evans. He's an unbelievable player. You've got a great player on your hands. I loved him on that. I've seen the highlights of Boreham Wood, but I haven't obviously seen the full game because I haven't been. It's not available to watch the full game. But against Bromley, he was brilliant. Going forward defensively, put 110% in. So yeah, we certainly have got a very good player there. And it's nice to hear the likes of Elliot who comes on and says that we have done. I'm still slightly concerned on that forward front, but we'll get onto the predictions very shortly. Mr. Luke has come in and said, we've got a curse at the moment. We keep losing drawing games in the last minute. This is the second time in 2 weeks. Didn't you have a problem with that the first half of last season? Let me know on that. Chesterfield will have 5 players in double figures by the end of the season. Very, 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 very confident on that. Norwood has spent most of his career in the National League. This is the first time Grigg has played below League One. So he's kind of had two sides of the arguments there with the Grigg and Norwood. See, I'm guessing you're more confident as a Chesterfield fan that Norwood will score more goals, but you think that overall Chesterfield have got more firepower with other options. Tom said can see Will Grigg getting 25 to 30 goals. Norwood, what's he said? Norwood is nearly a year older than Grigg. And then we've had Ash who's come on. Norwood's been playing more regular football though. Luke Walsh, cheers for that, Ash. And then we've had Norwood from Elliot. Grigg already got 1 in 3. He'll get double digits. Yeah. But Norwood obviously scored 2 already. And then we've had, well, what about Southend then? Smallest squad. We haven't even mentioned them yet. And they're the real underdogs. They should be the talking point. Smallest squad, best manager in the National League, best home and away fans than most. I'd agree with that. You've got some of the best home and away fans in this division, definitely up there. And it's a bit of a, I wouldn't call it a fairy tale. I'm sure you'll have a better word to describe this, but it certainly is a massive story and it deserves national coverage, in my opinion, more than it is getting at the moment, because they've won the 2 opening games. So credit to this squad, taking over 1,000 away to Dagenham. And, and they're still having all these problems off the field. I don't want to say a fairy tale because I know it's not with the problems off the field and we're only 2 games in, but how would you describe it, Paul?
I would probably suggest as unexpected.
Yeah.
I think we sat there and did our predictions at the beginning of the season. We've seen other bloggers and other those that actually have put Southend in the bottom. And that, and that's not to say that won't happen because we have no idea with what's going to happen with Southend and their predicament in the future. But to come to actually hammer Oldham, who many have got in their top 2, to then follow it up with another win yesterday against Dagenham, unbelievable effort. To think they've got 16 players, so they can name 5 subs and 11 players. They've got no squad other than that. Yeah, and to not have a proper pre-season, as we know that with the contacts we had, they've not had a proper pre-season. They've not had running water and hot water at their training grounds, so they've not even been able to look after themselves, even in the basic things. So to come out on the backdrop of not being paid, being uncertain whether they would start to see, to pick up 6 points, not let a goal in and score, what have they scored, 5 or 6? Incredible, incredible. And maybe that could be, we'll see how they get on Tuesday, but maybe that could be, we can discuss them further on Thursday and just sort of see what they get, where they go. Maybe and get an idea of where they could be going, and what's the prospects of them continuing that form.
Yeah, exactly. I know, like, at the moment, I would say the squad is playing out of its skin. There's some good individuals in that squad, but they're still significantly overperforming with this side. But there's certainly something within that squad. It's got to be the fans, and they're doing it for the fans, or there's something clearly spurring them on, isn't there? Is it the manager? Maybe it's the togetherness, because when something like this is happening and you're all going through it at the same time, it's going to make you together. And I know Ollie Kensdale was on a National League Twitter space, and he can't speak about it openly at the moment, but he was saying that, of course, we're having issues off the field. We know that, but it's kind of, and of course, people will be looking at it saying, why are we bothering? But we've took the other approach of let's just keep going with lack of pressure and just do it for the fans. And you know what? I just think that, and I think top players, top supporters, and just a top football club that don't deserve to be in this position. I think if they do get a new owner, Southend, I think they'll be getting a few bonuses, let's put it this way, those Southend players. George has put, who's a Woking fan, Woking just drop points all the time. Come on, you card. You'll be wanting a win, but you've got tough opponents this Tuesday against Altrincham. No, you haven't. You've just lost to Altrincham. Got tough opponents against. You're at home. I know that for a fact. And you're playing. Who is it you're playing now? Rochdale. That's it. Yeah. And then we've had Keza, who's joined the stream, an Oldham fan. Hello, welcome back to the stream, Keza. Good to see you here. We've got. I think we've got another Elliot who's coming. Norwood bags 25 goals. And then Paul has come in and said, we also have James Berry signed for Macclesfield. I've seen that, and based off a statistical point of view, I always try to be honest on this podcast, and I'm sure Paul's the same. We're not going to comment on a player if we've not seen them. I don't know if Paul's seen James Berry or not, but it's on a statistical perspective, he looks like a good player that's going to add more quality. Of course, there's a gap between two divisions below, which I feel Macclesfield are in, and this division. But I'd expect him to settle in, but I can't say I've seen him, to be honest. Paul, are you the same?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, the fortunate thing for him is he's come, although Macclesfield are sort of lower in the pyramid, they're very well backed, aren't they, with Robbie Savage and his mates. So I think they've been full-time or hybrid. They've certainly don't fit the mould of a football club that have come through the pyramid like they have over the last few years. So his adaptation to sort of full-time football should be better. He should be already sharp, but that is a massive step, from regional football, from the feeder to the National League, to play in the National League. I've seen it many a time with Wealdstone have tried lads like that. Some have done better than others, because, I'm not suggesting Chesterfield need to go and find players like that, but actually, if you can find a gem that adapts, all well and good. Fortunately for him is he's not going to be, I don't suppose he'll be expected to come in and start banging goals in and playing 90 minutes. So they'll bed him in. He's going to learn off one of the best at this level in Will Grigg. I think it's a very, very good signing for Chesterfield, and one that they can't really lose on, right? Because if he doesn't really work out, it's not like they're going to rely on him. But if he actually ends up being your next Jamie Vardy or your next Shimanga, happy days for them. So, yeah, a great signing for him, a great signing for Chesterfield, and obviously Macclesfield get a bit of kudos for finding him and moving him up the pyramid.
Yeah, he might go on loan, you never know, to a another National League side or a National League North side. But like you've mentioned, I think you've put it well there in that it is a bit, I know they've paid a fee, but it is a bit of a free hit for them to sign him. He's come from the lower leagues, and it's not like you're expecting him to just come into the team and relying on him. Like you've mentioned, he's going to be bedded into the side because they've got other players going forward. A Grimsby fan has come in. It's good. I love it when we get like your Stockport, your Grimsby, your Wrexham, your Notts fans who are still joining us from the higher leagues. I think Manny Grimsby should have kept him. Grimsby fan, by the way. Yeah, of course, Manny got 2 goals. I would have loved to have kept him. Say loved, maybe a bit too far, but he's a big loss for Halifax, I think. And I know Grimsby fans, he's like your god, isn't he? From when I spoke to Grimsby fans, they absolutely adore him for what he did. We'll have a quick look then at the final comment, and then we'll get into it. So Matthew has put, I'm going, Luke. Hope to see you there. I will be there, Matthew. Thoughts on Jack Evans, recently signed for the Shea from Hereford. He's a great player. That's a Hereford fan, actually. I've just noticed that. Well, we've had another Elliot who came in earlier, and he were singing his praises. And I have to say, when I saw him on the opening day, I was very impressed. Very, very versatile player. Can play in a number of positions, put over 100% in, and of course scored. And it was a very cheeky finishing with that chip. So yeah, I'm excited. He's probably. I think he'll be a good player for us, to be fair. And then Jim said an upset, no upset, just a shame and win. Yeah, Jim's expecting. Jim's not even saying we're the underdogs heading into this game. Love the confidence. And then we've had I think it is Aaron, who's a Wrexham fan from abroad. Wilson, a fair draw on Saturday, yes, and Halifax, not a terrible loss. I think Ebbsfleet, that is, will be the dark horse of the season up the town. Yeah, I'm hoping that's up the town for Halifax. Grimbo has come in and said National League underrated. I totally agree with that. And then we've had I think this is a Gateshead fan. Still cannot believe, I think that's meant to say, we conceded again in the 90th minute against a team with 10 men. I could see that coming, to be fair. He's an Oldham fan, Bob. And then we'll have a look at the final few. Our Huddersfield fan is tuned in once again. It's a surprise to see Southend at the top of the table at this early stage. I think dark horse of all the off-the-field problems they're having, they started a surprise package, so fair play to them. Love the fact you've got Neil Warnock in that profile picture as well, Chris. And then we've had one more before we get onto the predictions. Oxford City to finish on record lower points. Like, that's a big call, to be fair. But they haven't impressed so far, losing at home to Rochdale. And yeah, I don't want to ask you for your prediction yet, but would you say you're proper concerned about them? Do you think they're going to be a side that are going to be out in the depth? Because I'm very much, I think my point at the start of the season of them struggling, I can just see it happening. I think it's been proven right. Of course, we're only 2 games in, but I'm not confident about them, to be fair.
No, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? We've all talked about their lack of depth and quality at the National League level. They got thumped by Aldershot. I mean, I don't know the nature of the match, but clearly they were just way too open. If they're letting someone like Aldershot score 5 goals who aren't hugely prolific and haven't been in the last couple of years.
They lost to it. They got battered by Oldham. And yet, I know we were confident about them after that result, but they then got battered. I'm not saying it. So it's hard to read, isn't it?
It is. It's really hard to read. And listen, Oxford City were playing National League South last year. Rochdale were playing League 2. So there should be a big gulf. You'd like to think your first home game in the National League, there was only 730 odd people there on Saturday. So Oxford don't get a big sort of following anyway. I don't know how many Rochdale brought down, but I can't imagine there's too many keen to come down south in the National League at the moment.
I think 150. Seems like quite a lot, to be fair, considering.
So is it the games that they're going to be tied like the likes of Rochdale? But I know it's a home game, and you've got to try and get points at home and make your home ground a fortress. And no. But I think they are really going to struggle. Maidstone had more of a setup last year, being full time and having been National League previously, and they really struggled. Obviously the likes of Scunthorpe and Yeovil have had troubles on and off the pitch, over the last few. Oxford are stable enough. The investment hasn't been there. If they only get 700 odd each week, they're not going to have a huge amount of investment going forward. You'd imagine. So yeah, they've got a long and bumpy ride ahead of them.
I know Oxford United were at home, so that might be something that impacted the crowd. But yeah, I know they average, I believe, like 500 last season, and
not many.
That's I don't like I'm not taking the mickey out of the Crowns because I don't do that. But I think the only side that I can see who get really poor, and this is nothing against Bournemouth either, although I'd like to take the mick out of them after Saturday. But they're the only side that I can think of where they're really equipped to this division, and I just can't see Oxford doing it, to be honest. They haven't got the players, they haven't got the resources, and they haven't got the fan base, to be brutally honest. Ash has come in and said Norwood, he was fantastic versus Aldershot. Yeah, he's an Aldershot fan. We'll have a look at the poll then, close that poll off, and then we'll get on to the predictions. So it's very tight at the moment. Who scores more goals then this season? Norwood is just slightly winning. 58% say Norwood, 42% say Grigg. So yeah, I can see why I agree with Norwood scoring more goals. So I'm in the Norwood category. Paul's in the Grigg category. So yeah, we'll end that poll now. We may bring in more polls in the live stream. Just let us know if you're liking those anyway, to get yourselves involved. I might start doing it for the predictions. Each prediction, doing a poll to see what people are saying. But these were last week's results then. So I counted Paul's results, not Chris's. I think Chris might have got one less. He might have even got the same. But Paul defeated me this week. He got 5 points and I got 4. So we're now level on points. I'd say 4 and 5. I think for this stage in the season is probably average because it's so early on in the season. I wouldn't say it's great. I wouldn't say it's awful. You happy with that, Paul?
Oh yeah, without doubt. Considering last week,
yeah,
which was absolutely horrific, wasn't it? It's it's such. I mean, like you just said, Oldham get thumped, then they go and thump someone else. Aldershot thump Oxford, but then get thumped. But it's a tough league to call, especially in its early days. I think after 4 or 5 game weeks, hopefully it will start to level out and we'll get more of an idea of how teams are performing, because those that we thought wouldn't, the likes of Southend, are actually performing. Those that we thought might, the likes of Bromley, aren't. So all of a sudden it's really difficult to predict. So yeah, give it 4 or 5 games, but yeah, 7 after 2 weeks is not bad, is it?
No, I'd say after 2 weeks, I'm not happy with that, but I think he's so early on in the season, it's too hard to predict. I think I only got 2 results correct, one exactly correct, and the other just got the result correct. So I said Gateshead versus Hartlepool would be 2-1 to Hartlepool, which it was, and then Bromley v Barnet, I said Barnet would win 3-1, but they won 2-0, so that's an extra point. You said Southend v Dagenham, and Dagenham won 2-0, and you got that exactly correct. And then you got Oldham correct off the top of my head, and Chesterfield correct. They were the 3 that you got correct. And then, of course, Southend v Dagenham exactly correct. So, yeah, I said Fylde v Chesterfield. I think I said a draw, and I said Oldham v Aldershot a draw. But Aldershot, once again, they get me hopes up, and then they just ruin it. So, yeah, we'll move on to the predictions then now. If I can get it up here. See if we have this problem again. There we go. That should be okay, I would have thought. Right then, so this is the table. As I'm scrolling down, take a look. And it might be the one for me that I'm shouldn't have put them as low. I know it's only 2 game weeks, but I've been very impressed with the way they've performed in those 2 games. Yeah, that's going to be the one. Any? I know it's so early on, but any for you that you think maybe not? Now you've seen them.
Well, I watched the Bromley Barnet game on TNT Sport on Saturday night, or last night rather, and Bromley looked really poor, poor. Hardly any football played, no real threat. He just made 2 mistakes for Barnet's goals. I mean, listen, Barnet are a strong side, and we predicted they'll be up there, and they've started with 2 wins, which is fair play to them. But there wasn't a lot of quality on the pitch in terms of football being played. Not suggesting the players are not quality, but Bromley are definitely looking a lot short of what they require, considering what they've been in the last few years. So, their gaffer's got a big ask on their hands. As well documented, they've lost a few players over the summer, but yeah, I mean, Bromley, they're probably the one that shocked me the most, I would suggest.
Yeah, they've not had the best start, but I could see that coming. I did see that coming, to be fair. I think I put them 10th, and that might be a bit high. But, I think they'll come. I think they'll be okay. I'm still sticking with my prediction on them. But, yeah, losing to Halifax and then losing to Barn, it's conceding 4 goals in your first 2 games. It's a bit unlike them, a bit out of character. They've always been so well, defensively. Haven't scored a goal yet this season with the likes of Cheek. And also Marriott. I think Marriott's actually left. No, is Marriott still
he played. Yeah, he played last night. Yeah, they didn't even. There wasn't even an awful lot of service to them, and like I said, they've been so dependable at the back, and they couldn't clear their lines from a free kick and it bobbled around, and Barnet, their centre half scored. Towed one in, and the second one, they've let a straight ball through the midfield, through the defence. Defenders not reacted, and bang, it's 2-0, and they've got a mountain to climb then. And they just didn't offer enough. They do look really short in places, to be honest.
We'll have a look at Fylde versus Kidderminster then for the first game. Of course, Fylde were defeated by Chesterfield at home. I don't think there's any shame in that. Kidderminster managed to defeat York away from home, which was probably one of the surprises of the weekend. I don't think many people expected York to be defeated for the first game back at home, especially to a newly promoted Kidderminster. Of course, this is 2 newly promoted sides into the division. What are you expecting from this game? Well,
obviously their managers and management teams would have watched film on each other and highlights, but they're still not going to know a lot about each other. So I've speculated with a 2-2 draw. I mean, I have no idea. They both seem the ability to score a goal. Kidderminster, to go to York and get a result is very good. Fylde, there's no disgrace in losing to Chesterfield. I think many will this season. So they're at home. So I've gone with a 2-2 draw. Both played each other last year, so they're going to be familiar with that, but they might not be familiar with some of the new players in the teams. So, 2-2 draw.
I've gone for a Fylde win, and I'm going for a 2-0 win. The only concern, I think every side you look at the concerns at this point in the season, especially sides who haven't got even the sides that have got maximum points like Chesterfield, I've got me slight concerns for them, although I do still feel they'll win the league. But I think Fylde, the slight concern is defensively. I think going forward, they're going to be fine. Of course, Maidenhead away managed to score 2 goals there, managed to actually score twice against the Chesterfield side, who we know are going to be up there as well. So I think going forward, I'm quite confident in them. Horton, Kay, and Omateo going forward. Even that Turkish lad, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, Ustabasi, I think it is, going forward. I think there's enough firepower going forward for them. Of course, we've also got Bird as well at the back, who I liked him at Halifax as well. So maybe I think they'll tighten up within time. On the Kidderminster side of things, you can't knock them going to York away from home. And I think it was a bit of a smash and grab result there at York to defeat them 1-0 away from home. But I say that they were the better team throughout the 90 minutes. I watched the highlights and it was all them. A scrappy goal, yes, but it doesn't really matter, does it? They managed to get all 3 points. And it was a promising performance for them. But it is a long way to go on a Tuesday night to Fylde from Kidderminster. Like I've said, I expect Fylde to be up there this season. They've got some good players going forward. And I think at home, I expect Fylde to win 2-0. I've still got my concerns about Kidderminster going forward. 1 goal in the first 2 games. So, yeah, I'm going to back Fylde 2-0 for this game. We'll quickly have a look at what people have been predicting, if they have been predicting. And then we'll see. Someone said 1. Let's have a look at all these that are coming through. If I can get hold of them here. For those that I know a lot of people tune into the streams but obviously don't maybe not be able to comment. If you can, though, get your predictions sent in. If you've never said anything on stream before, please don't be afraid to do so. 2-1 to Fylde, 1-1, 1-1, and 2-0 to Fylde. So everyone seems to be backing Fylde or expecting a draw for this one. No one's backing Kidderminster. Callum said the Turkish lad was the best player, in my opinion. 2-1, and then we've had 1-1 again. Right, we'll move on to the next game then. Also, just as we're going through each games at the moment, please remember to like and subscribe. This is the only place on YouTube, I think at the moment, the only place where you can get weekly National League coverage where we analyse every single game. Like this podcast and also subscribe. Also to those, because I know the majority of people who watch the live streams or actually watch it afterwards. If you are watching it afterwards, please leave a comment with your predictions below. Let me know anything you thought on the podcast, any things you may disagree with. We'll happily discuss them in the comments below. And also a massive thank you for all the support recently. I'm going to be brutally honest here. I had a few concerns with some big clubs exiting the division, but the support's probably been slightly better than last season at the moment. So thank you very much to all the new people who've come along and tuned in to the live streams. Anyway, enough of that. We'll get back to the next game. Where would you like to go next? Do you want to go just straight down? Or
go straight down, yeah.
We'll go to your side then. Bromley v Wealdstone. Wealdstone are still unbeaten so far. How do you see this one going?
I've put down for Wealdstone to win 2-0. It was 3-3 there last year. Having watched both Wealdstone and Bromley on Saturday, Wealdstone went to an Eastleigh side who are very, very resilient, very organised, very dogged, and defended excellently against a Wealdstone team that, on another day probably would have won. And I don't think, Eastleigh fans would disagree with that. If Wealdstone play like they did against Eastleigh at Bromley, they'll get a result because of the way Bromley played. They'll get exploited. And that's really the reason I've gone with a 2-0 Wealdstone win. It's just, I think, the fact we're unbeaten, we've picked up 2 good results against fancied sides. I think now is a good time to play Bromley because, like you said, Luke, I think they will get better. Andy Woodman will get it sorted out. So I'm confident of an early 2-0 win down there on Tuesday night. And I just hope it doesn't rain and it's freezing cold.
Yeah, it's an open roof, open terrace, of course, at Bromley. I've actually gone for a draw for this game, just as I'm getting it up here. But I went for a 1-1 draw for this game. Of course, Wealdstone are still unbeaten. Like I've said this season, I expect them to be a hard side to defeat Wealdstone, and the same with Bromley. Maybe you'll disagree with me on this, but I don't see this being one of the prettiest games to watch this Tuesday evening. Of course, I think Bromley haven't scored yet, and I can see a bit of a trend to them of the Halifax of last season. I remember we didn't score in, I think, our first 3 games, and we actually scored against Notts County. So it took us 4 games to actually score. And of course, Bromley being at home, I think against a Wealdstone side that are still unbeaten, I can see a draw. Of course, Bromley, it's not a very good sight for them at the moment, being bottom of the National League. And like I mentioned, they seem to be conceding some very poor goals. They're not like, I would say, I don't think any of the Halifax goals or any of the Barnet goals to me looked like brilliant, well-built-up goals. They seem like just poor mistakes from the defence. And it's very unlike them because Bromley have always been known as the side that are a big physical side, that are very good defensively and then rely on the likes of Cheek and Marriott, who usually produce a lot of goals. They haven't done that yet. I still expect them to do that. But at home to Wealdstone, we know what Wealdstone will do. They'll come there and they'll make it difficult for Bromley. And like I've said, I think Wealdstone have got some good players in that side, likes of Kretschmar, OBBO going forward. Some very good players there. Tavon Campbell, I don't know if he scored yet. I haven't actually looked. But you've also got him in the side who has proven in the past, I'm not the biggest fan, but has proven that he can score goals. But yeah, I'm going for a 1-1 draw for this game. We'll have a look at what people have been saying in the live chat. Let's have a look then. If it loads anyway, because it's been very slow here. Let's have a look at the predictions. We've got them coming through. There we go. 3-1 to Wheelstone, 2-1 Wheelstone, 0-0. Everyone's back in Wheelstone, 0-0. 3-0 to Wheelstone, 1-0 Wheelstone, 3-1 Wheelstone, 2-1 Wheelstone, 2-1 Wheelstone, 2-1 Wheelstone. Yeah, not one person has backed Bromley for that one. You must be over the moon with that.
I'm not sure there'll be many weeks that will happen, Luke. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, I'll take it, and I think it's just a fair reflection on the last 2 games rather than any sort of previous history. And no slight on Bromley, but they have started poorly, and it might be Tuesday night that's where they start to turn around and give Wheelstone a good pacing. But genuinely, having seen Wheelstone play last 2 weeks, the way they've played, they deserve another win. And the way that Bromley have played, I can't see him getting a win. So I'll stick with the 2-0, and fingers crossed that's what happens.
Yeah, well, I'm sticking with my draw of a 1-1 draw, but everyone seems to be backing you. Please keep this up for the Halifax. We need it for the Oldham Halifax result. We need some positivity ahead of that result. We'll move on to the next game then. Dagon Red versus Gateshead. A long way to go down. Mr. Luke, are you making that long journey down to... I'm not very good with geography on London. South London, I believe.
East London. East London.
Yeah. Right. You're a Londoner, so you've got no excuses to get that incorrect. But Dagenham versus Gateshead then. What's your opinions on this?
Gateshead have had a torrid start, haven't they? Letting late goals in. Dagenham, it's very early days of them with a new manager and players and a bit of investment. So I've gone with a Dagenham and Redbridge to win 2-1. It's a long way for Gateshead to come, and I think Daggers will just have a little bit too much quality on the night, especially being at home. If it'd been the other way round, then you've always got a fancy Gateshead on a Tuesday for anyone they play. But I've gone with Dagenham and Redbridge to win 2-1.
I'm going a totally opposite result here. And I'm going 3-1 Gateshead. I actually think Gateshead in these opening 2 games, they haven't performed that badly. Bournemouth at home, they did very well. A bit of a poor second half to, of course, concede two late goals as well, and then to Hartlepool as well. But what I see in Gateshead is from set pieces, and they seem to be quite vulnerable. They were last season as well, and late on they seem to be switching off. Gateshead away from home last season, if we remember rightly, were actually quite good. And they loved their Tuesday night fixtures and getting results there for the long distance games. Eastleigh away, they managed to win there. Bournemouth, I believe, was on a Tuesday night as well when they managed to win. So I've gone for a 3-1 Gateshead win. I still think this Gateshead side has got a lot of potential to really kick on this season. And I still feel my 15th place position might have been a bit low. I think, once Chadwick starts scoring, which I expect him to do, Dinanga as well has proven he can score goals, did on the opening day. I'm confident they can get something actually win the game at Dagenham. And Dagenham, like I said, I'm not impressed with them this season. I'm really not with that squad and the players that they've lost. Innie Effingham is not getting any younger either. That's something to add. 33 years of age, and to lose at home to Southend, yes, they're top of the league, but still, in a derby match, I'm just not too confident about Dagenham this season. So I'm going to be back in Gateshead in that one. Mr. Luke, you are always complaining about me never saying you're going to win. You can't complain now with that. We'll have a look and see what people have been saying. We've had first one, 2-0 Gateshead. 2-1 Gateshead. I'm just going to read this out. I know it's against that, but to be fair, you did the double overs last season. 1-0 to Gateshead, 2-1 to Gateshead. I'm not going to Dagenham on Tuesday. Oh, part-timer. I'm only joking. 5-0 to Gateshead, though. Wheelstone were quality yesterday, whilst we were poor. 2-0 to Dagenham. Not Dagenham, Gateshead, I believe. Gateshead, Daggers, no, 2-0 Daggers. 1-1. Here we go. 1-1, 10 men, Dagenham score in the 90th minute. That's the trend at the moment with Gateshead. 2-2. I'll just read this out. We'll come away from that result because Matthew's coming. He's an Eastleigh fan. I just want your thoughts on this. We were lucky to draw, and he also said that Gateshead were very good against, not Gateshead, Wealdstone were very good against Eastleigh. Yeah, I know you were saying, weren't you, that Eastleigh fans would probably agree that Wealdstone were very unfortunate not to win. Yes, would you say there's any concerns with Eastleigh so far? Maybe with the money that they've spent.
Well, I mean, what I was surprised about was their lack of sort of threat going forward. With pace. Yeah, they've got undoubted quality further up the field with McCullum and Chris Maguire. Quigley came on as sub. But yeah, I mean, I was just really. But to be honest with you, Wealdstone had a massive amount of the possession of the ball, which is how they play. A possession-based team, as we know. The pitch is a great surface to play on, and Wealdstone really did play on that front foot and cause Eastleigh problems. What I did like about Eastleigh was they were really resolute and they were compact. I mean, what I mean by that is that they defended their penalty box very well. So Wealdstone couldn't get in and around into that penalty box too often and too freely. The one criticism of Wealdstone was, they find the inability to shoot fairly frequently. It's almost like they want to walk the ball into the net, or they want to play that perfect pass to the next person to shoot. And sometimes you think, take a bit of responsibility. Let's have a crack. You never know what might happen. So that favoured Eastleigh a little bit because they didn't have to defend that too many shots. But I was very, very impressed with their defensive display and ensuring that Wealdstone didn't score when the ball went in the box. So yeah. I've only saw 90 minutes of it. So as an Eastleigh fan, if I was an Eastleigh fan, I'd be like, what are we going to do going forward? But you've got to give Wealdstone credit. They played very well yesterday.
2-2 we've got, and then we've got 1-1, and then Mr. Luke, I'm saying 3-1 to us, so he's agreeing with me on that. And I'm not making the journey, sadly. That's a shame. Anyway, we'll move on to the next game then. We are to Dorking Southend. Of course, Dorking haven't had the best of starts. Maybe people may be a little bit concerned about them losing the opening 2 games. Tough start, though, that Chesterfield, of course, away from home, and then Maidenhead. But I did expect them to beat Maidenhead, and they didn't, and they lost 2-0. I know the assistant manager, what he said, he was very disappointed with that Maidenhead result. But Southend at home, it's not really the side you want to be playing, is it, Paul?
No.
Yeah,
not at all. I mean, listen, they pushed Chesterfield all the way, and by the looks of it, they could have maybe got something out of that. So they're going to have to take heart from that. Yeah, the disappointing one would be, you've got to beat the likes of Maidenhead if you want to be challenging, like Mark White says, to be that top end. I'm a little bit concerned because I put them as a bit of a dark horse to be in and around sort of the top end of the table, didn't I? So, Southend at home on a Tuesday night in front of a buoyant crowd of what they'll get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. It's not somewhere with a team that's scoring a few goals. It's not somewhere you'd want to go because I think Dorking can leave themselves quite open. I mean, I've put them down to score, but I've also put them down to lose. I've got Southend to win. Hang on.
It does say 3-1.
Dorking 1, Southend 3.
Oh, you've agreed with me. Yeah, I've gone 3-1 to Southend to win this game. Actually, I'll change that to 2-1. But yeah, Southend, they seem to just be grinding out results, don't they? Just playing out the skin. We've spoke a lot on them at the moment, and Dorking have struggled so far. So yeah, I expect Southend to go there and probably win, and they're top of the league, and Dorking are in the relegation zone at the moment after 2 games. So I'm expecting Southend to win that. I just think Dorking, they're having a slow start, but they need to pick that up because as a part-time club, you don't want to be in that relegation zone for a long period of time. Otherwise, you're going to get that second season syndrome, which I know a few people have already predicted they will. Someone said 4-2 to Southend, 4-0 Southend, 4-2 Southend, Southend 2-0, Southend 3-0, Southend 3-1, 2-2, 1-0 Dorking, 3-1 Southend, and 2-1 Southend. And then believe I was on this National League Twitter space. I'm going to ask your opinion on this. with a few Southend fans. And he said, ever since you got slated for saying Powell and Mooney were good, they've performed out of their skin. Powell is on another level, and Mooney got 1 goal and assist in about 40 minutes. I really didn't get that because I basically, Paul, the other week I said you've still got the likes of Mooney and Powell in the side, who are 2 quality footballers. I stand by that. And then suddenly 2 Southend fans who they bursted into laughter. What's your opinion on them 2 as players? Of course, they've performed very well in the opening start of the season.
I mean, if I'm brutally honest, I don't know too much about every individual player. I like Gus Scott-Morris in the back line. You know, I saw him come through the National League south of Hemel Hempstead, and I always thought he could play higher, and he's adapted very well. I love Cav Miley in midfield, who's come in from Easting. He took the captain's armband almost straight away. I mean, I don't, and I'm honest here, I don't take much notice of all of the players all the time. But listen, to play for Southend, where there's a big expectation to do well, and to start the 2 games like they have, they can't be bad footballers. And I think, you know, a lot of credit must go to Kevin Mayer and Darren Curry and their management team to get these 16 lads to go and play like they have. And they're probably now reaping the rewards for that, for the likes of Powell and sorry, the other lad, I can't remember his names would escape me. Mooney, because, you know, the thing is, right, what you got to bear in mind as well is that these lads have got an unbelievable opportunity to prove themselves in the National League. Because if Southend had a squad of 22 players, would they necessarily be playing? If their Southend fans aren't too keen on them, you don't know whether the management team have got no choice. They've got to play the 16 they've got. You know, they've got to choose them every week. So these lads, they're going to take the ball by the horn and go, do you know what? This is an opportunity. Ultimately, what you got to bear in mind is either an opportunity to do well with Southend and keep going up the league and potentially get promoted at the end of the season if they're still able to. Either that, or they're going to put themselves in a really strong position to get a move to somewhere else in the National League instead of going out the league with Southend. So, yeah, like you said, they're probably playing with a massive amount of freedom because actually all the off-field problems that I know these teams, you know, they like to say that they just shut the noise out and they concentrate on the football. It must bother them. But actually the 90 minutes on the pitch every week is where they can just go, do you know what? Let's forget about everything else. Let's just go and play. Let's go and do it for ourselves. Let's do it for the management. Let's do it for the fans and everyone else that's connected to the football club, apart from Ron Martin. Let's go and do it. And actually, they're probably playing with so much freedom that you're getting the best out of them.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what you're going to have is, I don't think Southend fans, because they are a proper good fan base. They're not going to slate players for making mistakes because the fact that the Southend players are playing in the squad, I think the Southend fans appreciate them for that. So honestly, I think that they are playing with very little pressure. They're not playing for a wage or even a contract at the moment, are they? So yeah, I agree with you on that. The Southend fans said 2-0 to Southend. Someone said Dorking had a few big players out injured in pre-season, so it might take them time to get going. And then we've had Kieran, 3-2 Dorking. Mark White loves playing against 3-5-2, and his Dorking side will put in a much better attacking effort than Oldham or Dagenham. I believe, actually, Dorking they managed to take 4 points off Southend, if I remember rightly, last season. And then David has said, is Mark White still on the touchline ban? He has been for the first 2 games, hasn't he? But I don't know, was it a 3-match ban or a 2-match ban? No, it'd be a 3-match ban. So he'll be banned for Southend and then he'll be back. Knowing Mark White, as soon as he comes back, I'm sure he'll sort it out down there. And then we've had Hayden, who said, Laz, I thought you was streaming tomorrow. I've missed most of the stream. Oh, well, up the shame. And you can rewind it once the stream has finished. And we haven't even predicted the Oldham v Halifax game yet. We've had Eastleigh versus Barnet then. This is quite a hard one to call. I've gone for a 2-2 draw. Barnet, like I've said, I've actually been very impressed with them on their start to the season. Done very well, considering that they've lost a few players and in the playoffs as well, been knocked out there. Eastleigh had a bit of a slow start, but they are still unbeaten, drawn the first 2 games. And I'm expecting another draw and a 2-2 draw here. How do you see this game going?
I've gone with 0-0. having seen both teams play on Saturday, yeah, I mean, I don't think Barnet threatened a huge amount apart from the mistakes that Bromley made, and Eastleigh defended very well. That's not to say that, you know, I think they maybe tested slightly more than Wealdstone tested them on Saturday with their firepower that Barnet have. But obviously Eastleigh going forward weren't huge amount of threat, and Barnet are quite good defensively. So I can just see a bit of a stalemate. Yeah, so I don't think that'll be the prettiest game on paper, but I think that it will be a draw. I've just gone for a 0-0.
Yeah, well, I'm going for a 2-2 draw. They all seem to be coming in now, all the predictions. To the Southend fan, definitely I'll do that. We've had 1-0 to Barnet. We've had 1-0 to Barnet. 3-2 to Barnet. 2-1 Barnet. 1-0 Barnet. 2-2 Barnet and 0-0 Johnny. I'll tell you what I'm going to start doing for next week.
2-2 to Barnet, Lou, yeah?
Yeah, 2-2 to Barnet. That's what No, what have I just said? I don't even know. 2-2. I'm in my own world at the moment. I'm very dopey, but no. What I might start doing, because everyone seems to be getting involved, and I do encourage more people to get involved. We seem to be getting some very good numbers tonight once again, and the last two streams as well. We'll probably start doing polls for each game and seeing what people are saying, as well as the predictions that are coming in too, just to get more people involved. Also, please spread this out to your forums, to anyone. I know this season, I know it's only the start, but we're getting some very good numbers and a range of fan bases. I know last season, yes, we were getting very good numbers, but what I will say is there were probably about 50% of them were Wrexham, Notts County fans and Chesterfield fans, where this season it seems that there's a lot more people from different fan bases that are tuning in. So it is brilliant to see. 2-1, 1-1, and then we've had 1-1. All the Halifax fans are suddenly tuning in, so it's good to see that as well. We've got 3 tuning in at the moment that are actively speaking. We've got Ebbsfleet versus Aldershot. Now, this was a very difficult game to call. Ebbsfleet, I expected to beat Solihull. They didn't. Aldershot, I expected to get something at Oldham. They conceded 5 goals. I don't know where Aldershot are at. They beat Oxford by 5 goals to 2, and then they lose by 5 goals at Oldham. I think 5-1 they lost, and that was an home goal. So, it's so hard to call this match. I think I went for a draw. How do you see this game going?
I put Ebbsfleet to win 3-1. Yeah, they got a really good, promising result against Rochdale, didn't they? First time out in front of the cameras on last Saturday. And I just think, you know, being at home, we've sort of talked about that they're a bit more of an unknown quantity. Took the National League South by storm last year, and I could just see them being quite good, especially at home. And Aldershot are going to be reeling from sort of shopping 5 goals on Saturday. And I genuinely think, you know, Aldershot scoring 5 against Oxford isn't a barometer of any sort of success of the season going forward. I think it's more a barometer if they getting shipping 5 against Oldham. That gives a true reflection of what Aldershot might be. But listen, they might be one of these teams, a bit like Dorking were when they came into league. You know, Aldershot might be one of these teams where their results are quite erratic. They'll win some, lose some by handsome scores. So I just think Ebbsfleet are going to be just too strong for them. Bit of confidence, you know, home game under lights in the National League. I don't know how many Ebbsfleet get that follow them, but yeah, 3-1 to Ebbsfleet.
I'm going to go for a draw. I think I said 1-1. Was it 1-1 or 2-2? Let me get it up here. I think I said 1-1 for that game. If I can find it anyway. Yeah, I'm going to go 1-1 anyway for this game. Two sides, I thought Aldershot losing to Oldham wasn't as big of a shock as what Ebbsfleet was losing to Solihull on their own patch. So I'm going for a draw for this game. I think Ebbsfleet, it's going to be hard to call because I do expect them to be a dark horse, although they have, of course, they lost to Solihull, but we don't really know what to expect from Solihull, so it's all relative at the moment. Aldershot losing to Oldham, I could say no shame in that because we know Oldham will be up there, But I still feel conceding 5 goals away from home is a bit disappointing. And I know under Ridgerington, I've got high hopes for them this season that they can kick on. And I think, away at Ebbsfleet, it's a game that if you're an Aldershot fan, you expect to get something from and possibly even win. Where I think you look at and same goes with Ebbsfleet getting a point or a win. I think Ebbsfleet will be more wanting the win. We'll have a look at predictions then for that game. Just have a few more last on the Barnet game. We had 1-1 as well from Ash. I think that was all of them. And then we're all coming through here for the game that we're just previewing now. I think it started for me. Just also, guys, you just put like one of the team's names as well when you give your predictions, because I can't remember where it's cut off from the last predictions. 1-1 draw, I think it's got to be 2-1, 1-all, 2-0 Aldershot, 3-2 Aldershot, 2-1 Aldershot, 2-0 Ebbsfleet, 2-0 Ebbsfleet, 3-2 Ebbsfleet. That loads. Suddenly frozen as well, my computer now. 2-1 Ebbsfleet, 2-1 Aldershot, sorry, 2-0 Ebbsfleet, 3-1 Ebbsfleet, 2-0 Ebbsfleet, 2-1 Ebbsfleet. We're getting that many predictions now. It's taking a number of minutes to get through. 2-0 Ebbsfleet, and another person's in the stream, Harry, said 2-0 to Ebbsfleet. We'll move on to the next game now. Hartlepool v Maidenhead. The games against Maidenhead, I see, as anyone who plays them, it's always an awkward game. It's a game you say, well, we've got to get the 3 points from that. But you just know it's a difficult game for Hartlepool. They've just come down. They'll be well aware of Maidenhead from a few seasons ago, and they'll just know that they haven't changed. Same manager, same playing style. I'm expecting Hartlepool to win this at home. I think it'll be a scrappy game. I don't think it'll be a pretty match, but I think Hartlepool proved against Gateshead that they can dig deep against sides that, even when they go down to 10 men, they can still pull through. And Maidenhead at home is a difficult game. I'm not saying it isn't. So I think it'll be quite a low-scoring 1-0 win for Hartlepool. They've got a lot of firepower going forward. An all-well-rounded team, big physical side, Hartlepool, like Maidenhead, but can also play football. And I think Hartlepool being at home, we saw the impact of the crowd behind them on Saturday and how much of a boost it gave them when they went down to 10 men. I expect them to win here. 1-0 to Hartlepool. How do you see this game going?
I've gone for 1-all. Yeah, I mean, Hartlepool are going to miss Josh Umrah, who's their main centre forward. But listen, first I'm going to say what a ridiculous fixture that is for Maidenhead have to travel to Hartlepool on a Tuesday night. What a joke, by the way. But anyway, aside from that, Maidenhead will scrap and scrap and scrap. We've talked about this many a time, Luke. They seem to pull rabbits out of the hat each year. They stay up. I can just see that being a result. If they got a good result of the weekend, they'll go there and it'll be a low-scoring draw at 1-all.
I'm going 1. It's going to be low-scoring, and it's a difficult place, I think. Well, Hartlepool, Maidenhead at home, it is a difficult game, I think. And yeah, to be fair to those, if any Maidenhead fans travel, I want to know if our Maidenhead fan is in the stream. Because I have a feeling if he is, I think he goes everywhere with Maidenhead. So if he is, I think it is David who it is. I'd love, if he is going, let me know. I'd love to get a Maidenhead fan on just to review that game, to be honest, because it is a very, very long way to go for Maidenhead fans. And they'll be hoping they can get a result there, especially up north as well, to a cold Victoria Park, which it will be, to be honest, on a Tuesday night. Fair play to any Maidenhead fans that make that journey up. Anyway, next game, I'm breaking this one. And the Oldham fans will know why, because we're in a group chat. And they're all asking for my prediction for this game, and they're not going to like it. But I'll let you go first.
You're not going to like mine, Luke. It's Oldham 3, FC Halifax 0.
Not happening.
Not happening. Listen, look, Oldham at home, you've got to fancy them all day long. I know it's a Tuesday night. It's a local derby. Halifax haven't got to travel that far. Halifax have come off the back of a poor result. Oldham have come off a good result. Yeah, I can just see them being good at home and steamrolling a few teams. And yeah, I think you might be one of them, Luke.
I don't. We're a side. We very rarely get battered. I'm not saying we're going to win this game, but can I just give my theory across before I give my prediction and before all Oldham fans? I've actually had a few Oldham fans have actually not given me much stick yet. But I know a lot of Oldham fans have been asking me for my prediction. And if I want a Halifax fan, of course I'd go for an Oldham win. I've gone for Halifax to win 1-0. And I know if I want a Halifax fan, I'd probably say similar to you. But we very rarely get battered. So I think if we are going to lose, it'll be by 1 or 2 goals. But we don't play well against sides that put 11 men behind the ball or just come and try play the dark arts of the game. We're not that sort of side. We're a side that are probably a counter-attacking side, and against the big teams, that's where we probably thrive. And I think this is another example. Like, I look at them opening 2 games, and I'm not concerned after that defeat to Boreham Wood. Yes, I'm a little bit disappointed. The first half, we were probably edged it and with a better team. The second half, we conceded 2 poor goals from set pieces. And, you know, Boreham Wood away, and I know we've had, I know online, Halifax fans, not ones who are tuning in, but Halifax fans online have been very negative and saying Millington out, which is pathetic. I just think shut up. They didn't make the journey down to Boreham Wood, so just shut up and keep your gob shut, to be honest, to those fans. They'll be there. They'll probably won't even turn up to Oldham, to those that are actually saying that. And I know people have a right to their opinion, but I just think that is just ridiculous and an uneducated view on Halifax, because you've clearly not seen us. But the opening game, a good result. Second game, disappointing, yes, but I can't remember a time we've ever won at Boreham Wood since I've been supporting them. So I don't read too much into that. I think it's a difficult place to go. I was hoping for a point, disappointing. But I genuinely mean this. I think there's more chance before the Boreham Wood game of us getting something at Oldham than there is of us getting something at Boreham Wood. Oldham away, Oldham are going to come at us and try play football and try outclass us. And that'll probably work in our favour because we'll just catch them on the break. We're very good defensively. We'll just catch them on the break, and that's how we'll play. And I think that's what's going to happen. We'll either lose by 1 or 2 goals, or we'll manage to nick it. Wrexham last season we did well against them. Chesterfield last season. It's not far. Halifax fans will be up for it. Will be loud. So I honestly think that we can get something here. I know it's controversial. People will disagree with that. But when it does happen, which it will, I'm expecting an apology from all the Oldham fans. We'll have a look at your predictions now then. Not liking the look of this, to be honest, guys. Started off nice. We've had 2-0 Shaman. Come on, I'm loving the positivity already. 4-1 Oldham. This is from Ash, who is an Aldershot fan. So obviously he was at the game, so he knows what we are to expect from Oldham. And then we've had 2-1 Shaman, 2-1 Halifax. From Keza, that's an Oldham fan. I don't know if you're doing that devil advocate, I think it is, where you're basically just trying to put your say the opposition are going to win, so it turns out wrong. 2-2 we've had. I'll take that, John Joe, definitely. But I can't see that happening. We obviously also did the double over Oldham last season. 3-2 Oldham, 3-0 Oldham. Honest one, 2-1 Halifax. Thank you, Callum. Very loving that from a Chesterfield fan. I don't know if that is honest because you are a Chesterfield fan or not. 2-1 Oldham, 1-0 Oldham. We've had XD. We won't try and control the game. This is Unsworth. We're still very negative on Unsworth. But I could see Halifax could drop 2 goals. It's because you beat us twice last season. What a Oh, here we go. Here come the Oldham fans now. What a numpty has predicted 1-0 to Halifax Tuesday. Give me your social media for when we beat you. That's all I'm saying. And then we've had Shaman. We'll move on from that now anyway. But yeah, when it does happen, I'm expecting a massive apology from all the Oldham fans because we are not losing to you guys. Right, next game anyway. We're moving on. Try get through these now. Where are we? We're Oxford v Chesterfield. One winner in this game. Probably one of the easiest predictions. 3-0 to Chesterfield. Oxford just out of the depth. That's all I'm going to say. I can see why people are saying they're going to get the lowest ever point tally because they look out of their depth. 5 goals conceded to Aldershot, and then to lose to Rochdale, who've just been relegated and are adjusting to this division, isn't very promising either. So I'm expecting Chesterfield to win this game by 3-0. How do you see this game going, Paul?
I've gone 4-0 Chesterfield. I think they're just purely simply going to be too strong. 4-0 might be quite adventurous, but I wouldn't put it past them. Getting 4 at Oxford City, especially if they score early. I think if they score early, then Oxford are done. But they're going to put up a good fight, but Chesterfield are just going to be too strong for them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, to be honest. I can only see one winner in this game. Would you say this is the easiest prediction, or are the others that you think are easier to predict?
Listen, I think it's got to be the most confident of a team winning against someone else and picking a team to win. I think it's by how many is the difficult one. I think with Chesterfield, listen, Tuesday night, this could be a coupon buster for everyone, and Oxford going nick a draw or even nick the 3 points. You can't put it past any team to do that. But this is more of this one is more of those unlikely scenarios. I think Chesterfield will just be too strong, and it's how many goals they will score. So yeah, I've gone with 4. So we'll see.
Yeah, I've gone 3, so hopefully my prediction is correct. Ashley said expecting some good support from Halifax was loud last season. I'd expect us to be honest. It's a Tuesday night, isn't it? To be fair, we are quite vocal away from home. I will say that I'd expect us to be bringing large numbers, but honestly, after that Bournemouth result, our fan base is so fickle, it's on belief. I think probably 500 or 600 will be making the journey over. Robert has said Oldham are going to mess Halifax up on Tuesday. Next joke, pal. 5-0 to Chesterfield. 4-0 Chesterfield. 5-0 Chesterfield. 5-0 Chesterfield. 6-0 Chesterfield. It's like going up in order. This 7-0 Chesterfield. 4-0 to us. 7-0 Chesterfield. 5-0 Chesterfield. And then we've got, not looking forward to this one. I'm going 1-1. Hope it's 4-0. 4-0 to Chesterfield. Easiest prediction of the night, probably. Easy prediction of the season, in fact. And then we've got, I think that's it on the predictions. And then Oldham has said, the Oldham fan, if Oxford get anything against Chesterfield, I'll buy Unsworth a takeaway. Can we hold you to that, please? Because that will be funny. What's your opinion on Unsworth as well? I want to hear your thoughts on Unsworth. We'll move on to the next one now. Woking v Rochdale, what do you think?
Woking Rochdale. I thought you were going to ask me about David Unsworth. Woking versus Rochdale. I mean, Woking have had an indifferent start. They're at home. I think they're going to win 2-1 against Rochdale. Rochdale are still adapting to the league. Not to say they're not going to be good enough to be up near the top, but it's a season of consolidation for them. I think Woking have got better results in them than have been suggested these first 2 games. So at home, quite a long way to come as well. Everything's in Woking's favour to get a win. So I've gone 2-1.
2-1 to Woking. I've gone 1-0 Woking. Long way to go on a Tuesday night. I don't think you get ahead of yourself as a Rochdale fan just because you've beaten Oxford City away from home that you're fine. You're going to be okay this season. Woking, yes, I've had a bit of a difficult start. Defeat to Altrincham. But at home, I'd expect them to win against Rochdale. Long way to go. I think they are just a better side. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 Woking win for this game. We'll see what people are predicting. And then everyone seems to be back in Woking. 2-1 Rochdale, actually, the first prediction that's coming.
Yeah, so it's all the shot fan though, Luke. So
that's why. Yeah, that's always. It's like me with the Oldham one. It's because I'm biased towards Halifax. 3-0 Woking, 2-0 Woking, 2-1 Woking. Jordan said, "I'm so annoyed I missed this. Hoping we get points. 2-0 Woking, 3-0 Woking, 2-1 Woking, 1-0 Woking, 3-0 Rochdale. That's ambitious. And then we've got 1-0 Woking, 2-0 Dale, and then Jim's come in with a 3-1 Woking win. We'll move on to the next game then. York versus Altrincham. Altrincham, I think a point's been proven that they're going to be a bit of a dark horse this season. Very, very good at working. Some excellent goals. Regan Linney got on the score sheet twice. Coslow actually scored as well after he's been out for over a year. I'm very excited to see this Altrincham side. I think they're going to be a very entertaining side to watch against a York side who have lost their opening 2 games against 2 sides. And no disrespect to you, Paul, and disrespect to any Kidderminster fans, but I would say 2 games you'd be expecting to win. And then playing against an Altrincham side now who it's not the sort of side you want to be playing, is it, Paul?
Not by any stretch. Look, York have gone heavy in the transfer market. They've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds to not win a game. And the goal they scored against Wealdstone wasn't the prettiest. They're going to be York fans are going to be struggling. Their manager's going to be struggling. Yeah, I think if they lose Tuesday night, he's got to be looking over his shoulder as to whether they're going to make a change, because Ugler's gone in there and spent a load of cash, and he's stayed with Mickey Morton. And we all know, you see it throughout the pyramids, that don't matter any level, ownerships come in, they pick their own man eventually, or their own manager, right? He's stuck with Morton, I think, probably to sort of bed in and keep the kudos and everything else, and not to ruffle too many feathers. But that guy's got to start getting results. He's been given some players to go and select who seem to be decent on paper, but they haven't proven it just yet. Wealdstone are a part-time team, and they've outgunned York and played really well. They've lost at home, their first home game under new ownership. They've lost at home on Saturday. They got a chance to right this on Tuesday night against Altrincham. I can't see it happening. Altrincham are going to win 2-0. Mickey Morton's going to be looking over his shoulder. I can see a change in management coming soon, and York will be in the bottom 4 after 3 games.
Do you think York will come good there?
I can't see any reason why they wouldn't. Listen, I've got nothing against that manager. I just think, Matt, Ugler's come in, and we all know, like I said, we all know that owners will get their own person in eventually. And I think Ugler's hasn't got any excuse, and I could be completely wrong here, and he may keep him. A bit like Halifax did with Millington, keep him and get him through a rough patch, and actually it proved to be a good move. Altrincham did it with Phil Parkinson, that transition to part-time to full-time. Left Parkinson there, Altrincham were indifferent, and they've blossomed, and they've improved sort of month on month, season, and into the next season. I can't see that happening with York. So there's been a lot of money. They're under a lot of pressure to deliver because of what's been spent and the expectations from that club with the new ownership. So I think they will come good, but I don't think they're going to become as good as teams, as fans, especially York fans, see them going.
I still see them missing some at York. I just, going forward especially, I think they're going to rely on Akiniemi, aren't they, for goals? I'm not saying he's not going to produce goals, but they need something else, like Kevin Castro, Sizizabe, or whatever his name is, and then Harriet going forward, and there's Coulier as well. They're not. It's a bit like the Oldham situation. They're not prolific goal scorers, where Oldham actually do have other players like what do you call it, Reed, who can chip in as well. And I do think that I think York are just a bit short going forward. Defensively, I think, like I've said, I think they're set. Although they lost to Kidderminster, it was a scrappy goal. Yes, they lost to Wealdstone due to a penalty, and probably the sending off had a massive impact, which I think, Paul, you'd probably agree with. But to be playing Altrincham now, it's a tough game. Altrincham are going to be no pushovers. A very good footballing side. They'll turn up and play football. I'm going for a draw. York have got to pick up a point at some point, or pick up something. And at home, you do not. That York fan base is a very good fan base when you're doing well and when you've just had a takeover, and there's the novelty of that. But when you don't want that fan base on your back behind you, because that is never good. Someone actually put, and I'll read it out in a sec, but someone actually put, Ugler thinks he's playing Football Manager with the amount of signing he's made. But, I don't really know what to think of Ugler, because I like the look of him. Of course, like Paul, you've told me more about him of his time at Yeovil. Yeovil fans have different opinions about him, but he's clearly made a statement with the signings he's made. But it felt like you were quite confident this season that they were going to do well and they were going to blow everyone away. And now that that's not happened, it's like he's gone quiet, if that makes sense. And do you agree with that, or
no? I think he's been very sensible in not being so forward and open and big time. I don't know what the phrase is, on social media like he was when he was at Yeovil at the back end of last year, and clearly that the takeover there didn't happen. He was very much one who got players in and spent money and give them contracts, but it was a real scattergun approach. I think it could be said that it's similar to York. Yes, they've got Howe in from Solihull and they've got Cordner in from Aldershot. Great. But Zaziba from Yeovil didn't pull up any trees. Callum Harriott, proven goal scorer, can't stay fit. It's like, so I don't know. I'm just not convinced by him from what I saw at the Yeovil. He has calmed down and he is being a little bit more pragmatic in his approach, and he's not been quite so sort of forward on social media. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it all, having seen what he did at Yeovil, and I just can't see it going well. And I've always said this, and I've got nothing against any of them because I don't know him personally, but it's just what I see running a football club like they did at Yeovil, and how they didn't help the situation. And it's very much coming into York and doing what they've done and splashing the cash and saying this is what we're going to do. But again, it just doesn't. Like you said, it just seems a bit lopsided in terms of their recruitment. Let's give them their due, right? They bought Callum Howe and Tyler Cordner, two good centre halves. No two ways about that. They haven't played together yet.
yeah,
Cordner didn't play against Wealdstone, and Howe then got sent off. So Cordner played yesterday, but Cordner didn't. Now I don't know when Cordner's back from suspension. I don't know whether he got 2 or 3 games for the red card against Wealdstone. Tomorrow night they may be defensively a bit better. Who knows? They might. So that going forward is settle it. You got to settle that in. But I don't know what to make of York, if I'm honest, Lou. I think you said the same.
Yeah, Cordner will be playing. Howe won't be because I think he got a straight red, didn't he, against you?
Yeah, it was a handball off a corner. So yeah, I don't know what his suspension was. So
it'll be he'll be out for a bit of time, but he won't be back for this match. And Altrincham going forward are dangerous with the players. Regan Linney, I think he's going to be that goal scorer for them this season. And then you've got Coslow and Con Clark, and the midfield just very strong as well. The likes of Isaac Marriott in that middle, and Joey Jones as well. But I think a draw for this game, they've got to pick a point up at some point. Otherwise, that fan base is going to turn on them, and you really don't want that, to be honest. I think the novelty's kind of worn off to a certain extent, where last season it's been horrendous for a number of years now with the caliber of players they've brought in, the teams that they've had. And now they've obviously brought in a load of new players. But what they've got to remember is it still takes time. You can make 13 signings, I think they've made. You can make that many signings, but you're not just going to go into the first game of the season, blow the division away. If Wrexham didn't do it, or Notts County didn't do it, the signings they've made, then York aren't going to do it. It's going to take them time. And I think getting a point against Altrincham isn't a bad point, because I think Altrincham are a good side. Yes, it's disappointing to lose to Kidderminster and Wealdstone, but they've got to start from somewhere and pick up that first point. And I think this is a game where you're looking at that thinking, we've got to get something from this game. I think York fans will be saying they've got to win, but from someone like myself, I'd be saying a draw is what you need to be getting at least. Just get yourselves a point and then head into that next game next Saturday, hoping to build on that. We'll have a look at the predictions then. 2-0 to Alty, 3-1 Alty, 3-1 Alty, 2-1 Alty. Then we've had York have been very bad so far, 1-0 Alty, 2-0 Alty. 2-0 York actually, 3-1 Alty, 2-2, 2-2, 2-2. Then we've had, I don't know if it's showing, to be honest, but 2-1 York, and then we've had, I think that's it on predictions on them. We'll have a look and see what people have been saying. As the Chesterfield fan, let Norwood be top goal scorer. Who cares? Chesterfield much better attacking options throughout the rest of the side. We'll move on to the final game and then come back to all the final comments. This is a game that I actually forgot about because it's being played on the Wednesday. So I'm doing this prediction off the top of my head. I'm going to go for a draw for this game. Bournemouth. They're a good side, Bournemouth. The same old traditional Bournemouth have added to the squad. I think they'll be up there. Solihull, I think, are actually still unbeaten themselves. Both have took 4 points in their opening 2 games. And yeah, it's just up for draw, I think. Bournemouth, they're never going to beat a side by 4 or 5 goals, but they're good at grinding out results. And Solihull going down will be hoping to get a point from this game. And I think they'll do that. I think I'm going to go for a low-scoring 1-1 draw. How do you see this game going?
Luke, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I don't disagree with you. Solihull have been a bit of a surprise considering their turnover of players and staff. Bournemouth haven't picked up quite as many as they probably thought. Points, not quite as good as they thought they'd be. They're at home. I know Bournemouth at home. I think it's a 2-2 draw. It's definitely a draw there. They're going to be hard to separate, aren't they?
Yeah, I agree with that, to be honest. We'll have a look at the predictions then finally. 2-2, 1-1, 0-0. That could be a shout, to be honest. 1-1, 2-1 Bournemouth, 1-1, 1-0 Bournemouth, and 1-0 Solihull. I think that's it for predictions. I'll get it off the screen now. Get your final thoughts in before we do bring things to a close. But yeah, there are predictions, Paul. Obviously, Tuesday's fixture can't come quick enough for me. That Oldham game, I'm very much looking forward to. And I'm sure Bromley, you'll look forward to yourself. Is it one that you like?
Yeah. Huh?
Do you like Bromley away? Because I know a few people have different opinions. It's one of the only grounds I haven't actually done.
Do I like it? It's not the one of the most exciting, and that's no disrespect to Bromley. The games are always pretty decent. We don't get a lot out of Bromley, but the games are always decent. I've not had a good track record. I went there last season. I think it was about -12, and we drew 3-3. So there wasn't many of us there. The season before that, I thought we'd lost to a goal that was offside from a free kick, and it turned out it wasn't. So at the time I was particularly miffed, and I'd had to leave early due to a family problem at home. So I haven't had a good run at Bromley. So I'm just hoping Tuesday night will be warm, it'll be dry, and we have a good game and hopefully a Wealdstone win. Yeah,
but it should be nice weather, I think, on Tuesday. When I was looking, to be honest.
It's looking all right.
Let's hope so. But just another thing, I've never seen us lose to Oldham at all. I've been twice. No, 3. We've played against them 3 times when I've seen them. We played them in a pre-season game about 4 years ago now. We beat them 2-0. Then we played them last season, beat them 2-1 at home, then beat them 1-0 away. It's just going to keep going, and we're going to get another result there this time around. Someone said, I think we're finally there now. We'll just have a look at the final thoughts, and then we'll bring things to a close. Hayden has said, proper excited about this game week, lads. See you next stream. Up the shame. And cheers for tuning in once again. We've had Mr. Lucas said, great show. All the best of the teams on game week 3, except for Dagenham. And then we've had terrible pitch and fair enough. And then we've had good stream. Like, don't get your hopes up for Tuesday though. No, cheers for tuning in once again to the stream. And yeah, I would say best of luck for Tuesday, but I can't do that, unfortunately. And then we've had Joe, who's come in and said, good stream. Good luck for Tuesday, actually. Cheers. It's a bit like the same situation as when Notts fans were cheering us on to beat Wrexham, and we managed to do that. There we go. And then we're on good stream. Everyone's tuning in. There we go. And final one. See you Tuesday. Hopefully you can sell a few more. Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. We need to be honest. We should be selling out 750, but we'll have to just see. And then as long as Oldham get battered, I don't care. A Rochdale fan, that is. But no, Paul, thank you finally for tuning in once again. Thank you for joining me once again.
No problem.
And giving your predictions. Hopefully, do you think you're going to beat me this time once again?
Yeah, I'm confident, Luke.
Confident. Yeah, especially with my Oldham prediction.
Yeah, that might be the difference.
Yeah, it could be, to be honest. But yeah, thank you to everyone that's tuned in. Please remember to like and subscribe. Like I've said, this is the only place on YouTube where you get regular National League content. Also, if you're watching this back, as most people do, leave your comments below of your predictions, and also let me know your thoughts on anything. And also, that more or less wraps things up. So once again, Paul, thanks for joining me, and thanks to everyone that's tuning in. And bye for now. If the stream actually finishes for me.